What's going on? We're live. It's Luis Acevedo here. Going live on TikTok. What's up, TikTok? What's up, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, everywhere else? Luis Acevedo here, the host of The Honest Hour and the founder of MOT Media and the co-host of MOT Today. Got a pretty good one for you guys today. Going to give it a little bit before we get started here. Let some people come on in. Let's see here. So yeah, I got a good one today for you guys. Like I said, this is the Honest Hour, so we'll get started here in a few minutes. Let some people come on in, and then we'll get started. I'm Luis Acevedo, founder of MOT Media. And yeah, we have a lot of good stuff to cover today. Before we jump into it, there was some interesting stuff that happened over last night and today. One of the things that was pretty interesting that took place and rather telling is Janet Yellen on the, I believe she's the Fed chair or on the Federal Reserve. Let me just see here before I butcher. Janet Yellen. Let's see here. So yeah, she's a U.S. State Secretary of the Treasury. So yesterday she had said that the Roe v. Wade being overturned is detrimental for the economy because women who are forced to have children would be required more than likely to just stay at home with their children or spend more time with their children, and they're not as a reliable workforce. They're not reliable manpower anymore if they have children and they don't have the right to abort them. That's what Janet Yellen was saying. So it was pretty interesting that she just came out and said that yesterday. And I mean, this is something that is well known. Everybody wants to talk about the fact that we back in the day could live off of one income, right? Most families, the men went out to work, women stayed home and raised their children, and that is pretty standard across the board. But now it's very hard for families to do this. I get it. However, there are definitely ways that you can make it work, but that's a whole nother conversation. So nowadays, we have to have, most people do, both parents working in order to provide for their families in the way that they would like to live their lives, right? But back in the day, that didn't used to be the case. And one of the big reasons this has changed is due to the fact of women entering the workforce. That's just a fact. Whether you like to admit that or not, women enter the workforce, and now you have twice as many people getting paid. So then guess what? The dollar is getting devalued even more. And so this is a huge issue, as this, you can say it's an issue, you can say it's not an issue, wherever your position is on that matter, but it definitely is something that has played a role in the increase cost of living. But Janet Yellen is saying that, hey, now that women have entered the workforce, it would be a regressive act for them to exit the workforce and spend more time with their children. That's what she's saying. And so basically, you should have the right to abort your child in order to stay in the workforce. And this will help the economy. Now, I'm not sure about you guys, but personally, I would definitely take a decrease in GDP to save a few lives. I don't think money is as important as lives. However, we also are missing a very crucial thing when it comes to the abortion narrative, and that is the fact that it's not just solely on the woman, right? Like, it's the woman's decision as to whether or not she's going to do the abortion. This is true. However, it really lies on the men of society, because the reason women even feel remotely comfortable in getting an abortion is because the men in society aren't strong enough to lead them and provide them with security into having that child. So that's the main issue that nobody really wants to talk about, is that while abortions maybe are morally wrong, definitely morally wrong, logically they're incorrect. I mean, it's just Just logically, it doesn't make sense unless you just want to admit that murder is okay. But anyway, the biggest thing that we miss there is the fact that men are the ones who bear the most responsibility when it comes to these certain acts because you should be leading your women and you shouldn't be treating women as as just solely sex objects, right? That's wrong. Although, like, there's this gray area there, though, right? Like, I mean, I'm not going to get all into this game narrative or anything like that, but women to a certain degree, they if you're in a good relationship, women do like to follow. They do like to, um, in a way, be told what to do, right? So, and they also don't mind being objectified either. This is just the truth of the matter. But the issue is that today there are no repercussions, very little repercussions for your actions. And so men have no incentive to really lead women when a woman can take birth control pills, she can get an abortion, they have other forms of contraception that would prevent them from facing the repercussions of producing a child and actually having to stay together and raising a life, right? So, and this has a lot to do with birth control is a huge thing, but also the feminization of men that has been taking place over the years. Soy is a big thing. A lot of the things that have been introduced into our diet have lower testosterone. I mean, for one thing, is the fact that everybody and their mother is going towards a vegetarian or a vegan diet, and that is proven to lower men's testosterone. And then if you lower the testosterone, that means you have less actual men in society, and it's not good. It's not good. You have a weak society, and so that's another. That's like a really big reason why abortions take place is because men are just too weak, and women don't feel comfortable in their men who they are having these sexual encounters with to have their children. That doesn't make it right to go and have the abortion. But anyway, so this is all circling back to what Janet Yellen had to say regarding the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I think less men would be great for society. That makes no sense. What do you mean? So you think so less men would be great for society? Who is going to lay the brick? Who is going to build your homes? Who is going to defend the territory in which you claim to be yours? Who is going to provide? I mean, like, there's just a list of things, right? Like, if you just look at the occupations and most of the blue collared work, you're not going to find any women doing that work. The only kind of equality that the feminists and the leftists are looking for are in white collared positions. And Republicans are guilty of this as well. I'm not a Republican by any stretch of the imagination, so don't get it twisted where I'm just focusing on that particular group, right? But who is really going to do the work, do the hard work? It's men. So if you had less men in your society, you would be a weaker society because men are objectively, without question, the stronger sex. So you would objectively be a weaker society with less men. That's just a fact. I mean, physically and mentally as well. So it would not be good for society to have less men. We currently are seeing a dwindling, a shortage of real men. And that is why we have the issues that we have currently. That's exactly the point that I've been making as to why women feel the need to have abortions. But anyway, so this is, at least that's a part of it. That's not the whole thing, but that's definitely a part of it, is the lack of masculinity, which has required women to become more masculine. This is something that happens when there's a lack of masculinity. The women can no longer be feminine, or they have to suppress their feminine side in order to become more masculine because there are less men in the society. And that is what we see taking place right now. So, anyway, Just went on that little tangent right there regarding what Janet Yellen had to say about the potential overturning of Roe v. Wade before we dive into the actual topics here. And then also, very briefly, the White House press secretary, Jen Psaki, I did a TikTok on this earlier today, basically encouraged protesters who were going to the Supreme Court justices' homes and threatening and intimidating them to continue to do so, to continue to protest. And this is actually illegal. This is a federal crime to do that, to go to a judge's home and intimidate or threaten them, protest at their doorstep. That is a federal crime. And the White House is endorsing those actions. Me too. Yeah, that makes no sense. You guys think that society would be better with less men. You would objectively have a weaker society. And if you have a weaker society, you would not survive as long. Like, I'm all for women. I love women. I have a wife, I have 3 daughters. Women are wonderful. They're absolutely necessary. Weaker in terms of what? Physicality. How can you defend your territory if it's just solely women? How? I mean, objectively weaker. Mentally also weaker. Provably. All around. Less destruction and greed on earth. False. There will be more destruction and greed on earth. This is exactly what you're seeing right now in the United States of America. The feminization of society brings destruction. We don't need too many men, she said less. Yes, that makes no sense. That means that you would have a weaker society if you had less men. Because right now, the ratio is almost a little more to the point where there's equal men create wars. Yes, because men are territorial. Men want to defend and also build and conquer, which is a natural human thing. And it's actually natural in general. All animals do this. Not all animals, but chimpanzees do this. Lions do this. They all do this, right? The apex predators, the top dog predators do this behavior. It's very natural. Wars are very natural and sometimes they're extremely necessary. I'll give you a hypothetical situation. Somebody comes into your home and tries to take what you own. There then is a mini war taking place in your home because you have the decision to protect what is yours or let somebody else take what is yours. Anybody that has any dignity, any integrity, any honor would be, hey, no, that ain't happening. I am defending my land. That's different, defending your territory. That's exactly what war is about, is defending and expanding your territory in the most basic sense. In the most basic sense, it's defending and expanding your territory. And there is nothing wrong with doing either of those two things. Back in the day, right, you had one tribe. They want to expand their claim on the land. So what has to happen? Well, either they work out a negotiation, a deal with the other territory, or they don't. And if they don't work something out, then war ensues. And that's just the nature of the world. I'm talking about men starting wars over BS, colonizing. This is very natural. What happens? What you are talking about, those we all men. I don't know what you mean. But it is very, very natural to colonize. Like, I don't know why this has become some demonization. Like, this has become demonized in our society today, but it is very natural to colonize. I don't know why people don't see that. Women don't rule like that, but women don't rule at all. Women don't rule at all. Women are, their role in society is a beautiful role and a very empowering role. And that role is to lead the children and lead other women, while the men's role is to ultimately lead women and lead society. And then they are led by God or whatever divinity that you believe in, or higher power of some sort, or a higher objective. What is nature to you is not to others. Nature is not debatable. You can look at the world and see how it operates and see that nature is very objective. I mean, the sun comes up every morning, the sun sets every night. That is nature to everybody, right? So it's very, very standard what nature is. Um, Women don't rule like men, but men ego thinks he has all answers. That's not necessarily true, okay? Because men don't say that they have all the answers. Arrogant men think they do, um, but yeah, like these aren't even really arguments at all. They're not. Man is wicked by nature. Why we need less of you? I'm thinking that you're trolling. Um, and so that's cool. I mean, if you think men are wicked by nature, is your dad wicked? Is your grandfather wicked? Is your boyfriend or husband or brother or sister or uncle, are they wicked? Are they all wicked? No, I'm being honest. So your dad is a wicked man. Fuck your dad. Like, screw him. Screw that guy. Screw your grandpa, too. Screw your uncle. Screw your great grandfather. Screw all the men that helped bring you here because they're very wicked. Like, why did they even live? They spawned you. I mean, come on. Come on. It's insane. It's insane what you're saying. And I don't think that you're being honest. I think that you're extremely programmed into believing what you believe in. And a lot of people are programmed. I'm programmed in certain ways. Everybody is programmed. I'm talking about men in general, not individual men. The male ego. That makes no sense. That makes if you want to go into that metaphysical realm, women also have the male ego. Okay, like have you not studied psychology at all? Have you not studied spirituality at all? Because if you're going to go through that route, men and women both have a masculine and feminine energy. So all masculine energies should be destroyed. I think you're programmed to think destructive behavior is natural. No, I am not. I think that destruction is a natural process of life, and then creation is also very natural. And the people who build are generally men. Who build cities? Men. I mean, who build farms? Who builds houses? Who builds, like, literally builds them? Like, literally, who builds them? Men. Like, I don't know, but that's okay. So anyway, there are some other things: build and destroy as well. That's what I just said. That's literally what I just said. It's a very natural process of life. Very natural. You can say nature destroys trees because over time they age, or the wind is too hard and it knocks them over. And then guess what happens? Birds and squirrels and other insects and animals create a home out of that dead tree. And then eventually the biome, right, the natural biome on the forest floor eats that tree, and then it creates nutrients for that tree. So it's a natural process of life. But you just want all the credit for building, don't want to be accountable for destructive behavior. Nature to who is murder natural? What are you talking about? You are obviously not listening to what I am saying, because I said that it's a natural cycle of life, that there is creation, destruction, creation, destruction, creation, destruction. I mean, it's very simple. You don't have to be that intelligent to understand what I'm saying at all. Nature to who? Nature is not something that's subjective. Nature is extremely, extremely objective. So it doesn't matter to who nature we're referring to as humans. Nature is anything. It's any living being. Nature is nature. Is murder natural? Well, um, I mean, that's a good question. I would say that typically women, no, we can elevate beyond human instincts. Why we are emotionally intelligent. Oh, men aren't emotionally intelligent? Okay. And also, would it arguably reason is more important than emotions? Like that's that's a huge point right there. Like, yeah, women are more emotional. They're more in tune with their emotions. Fact. Men are able to typically detach themselves from their emotions, which is why men are 99% of the time leading society. Is murder natural? I would tend to say yes, it is, which is why you have men to protect men from other barbarous acts. Your ego makes you think you are superior. No, I mean, your ego, first off, you're using ego in the incorrect way. Ego literally means I am. I am. So my ego is simply me being alive. It means that I am. By definition, ego means I am. Your ego makes you think you're superior. Do I think men are superior than women? In certain ways, yes. And then in certain ways, women are superior than men. For example, women are superior in the area of nurturing and caring. Men are superior in the area of strength, control, power, leadership. Like, we're not equals by any stretch of the imagination. And this is very obvious to see. You don't have to be very smart to see this. This is like common sense. You lead by force. I'm assuming you're talking about all men, and you do need an element of force in order to lead. Destruction, you left that out. Okay. All right. So this is all right. So let's move on. Insanity. I don't know what's insane about that. I mean, it's pretty objective what I'm saying. It's there's like actually it's actually really sane what I'm saying. What you're saying is legitimately insane. And I think that you are a legitimate troll and I am just simply entertaining the conversation right now because I think people can get some value out of hearing sane, articulate responses to somebody who is obviously brainwashed by society to think men are evil. And yeah, so actually, no, I am a woman. Have some respect. Definitely trolling. Definitely trolling. You could be a woman. And if you are a woman, like, why are you on here commenting to me? Why? Especially the way that you're doing it. Like, why? Just stop. Never said men are evil. Just stop. Just stop. Just stop. All right. Let's move on here. So that was what I wanted to talk about a little bit before we dive into the topics here to let some people get in. So Yellen said, yo, we're going to be regressive if we take away the right to abort children because women won't be able to work as hard. They'll be a less reliable um, um, worker if they have children. It's essentially what she said. So now let's go into this because I find this very interesting because there's a lot of people, my generation right above me. So I'm like right in the Gen Z, the millennial. And this has to do with the housing market. Is the housing market going to crash? A lot of people think that we are going to be entering a recession in the housing market. And this article from Zero Hedge goes into that a little bit. Okay. And so the data that they're using has to do with home builders. So home builders are saying, yo, the demand is down. People are not going to be building new homes right now, and investors are also pulling back their money. And so this is causing a rippling effect throughout the economy. And then you also have the rising rates that are playing a role in this. So as far as the builders go, costs are just going through the roof to get the supplies to build the homes. So less people are doing that. So then one could say, well, less people are building new homes, but why can't they just buy a home that's already been built? Okay, well, that's because the amount of people selling their homes are also going down, which is why we see the prices of homes going through the roof. Now, as far as investors pulling back, it probably has a lot to do with the rising rates, all that stuff. Anyway, so there's concerns about the market, the housing market specifically tanking. And so the thing is, even if the market does crash, we have to factor this in. Okay. Before the 2008 recession that was felt throughout America and the world, primarily caused by subprime mortgage loans, the median house price was roughly around $250,000. $250,000. Now the median house price is well over that, reaching nearly $400,000. It's in the mid to high $300,000 range. The reason I use that as an example, or I use those two numbers, is to illustrate the fact that we had this huge recession that people thought was the end. The next thing you know, years later, the housing market goes up and up and up. That's probably what we're going to keep seeing. Now, there are other people who think we're going to enter this deflationary period, which we might. I've also been saying that for a little while, but who knows? We'll see. I tend to believe that the housing market will continue to go up. However, we are definitely seeing more people renting than buying. So that's something. And I think that you're going to keep seeing renters increasing and buyers decreasing. I think that's going to be a more common thing, especially among younger generations. Because renting allows you a lot more flexibility than purchasing a home does. Not only that, but a lot of people have already reasoned, hey, I don't actually own the house that I own because I owe a mortgage on it. And so the bank actually owns the house, not me. And everybody's concerned, not everybody, but there's a lot of people who are concerned about this renter economy that's coming up because of the World Economic Forum has stated, Carl Schwab's, I believe is his name, stated, yo, we're entering a world where you will own nothing and be happy about it. Now, really quick, something to chew on here is the fact that this is already true. You own nothing. And if you look at some of the most iconic figures or the embodiment of happiness throughout the world, they too have owned nothing. Jesus Christ comes to my mind as a prime example of this. He quoted one time in scripture that the Son of Man has nowhere to rest his head, nowhere to lay. And that's because he didn't own anything. And if you want to go a little bit deeper on that, humanity doesn't really own anything. You don't own anything as it is right now because when you're dead, it's gone. It's no longer yours. You stake a claim in it while you're here. You can defend it. You can claim ownership while you're here. There are definitely certain degrees of ownership, but as far as absolute ownership, nobody has absolute ownership over anything. That doesn't mean that anybody has the right to come into your home and try to steal things from you, anything like that. That's insane. But rather, on a more on a deeper level, you actually don't own anything as it is already. And with this whole agenda of you will own nothing and be happy, there is some truth into that, which is why, a lot of these lies that are fed to us, there has to be a kernel of truth. And the kernel of truth is that you are happier when you own less items. There's a whole movement going on right now, the minimalist movement, right? Where they're basically giving up pretty much everything and just keeping what is needed to live. And they tend to think that their lives have improved, they're happier, they're healthier, there's less distraction. There's certainly a degree or an element of truth in saying that if you own nothing, you will be happier because of it. Now, I don't necessarily agree with where they're going in this, and that is basically the government will own everything. You will loan everything from the government. This is like the real agenda here, right? That you will lend or own everything from the government, own or rent it from government or private organizations that work hand in hand with the government, which is why the left is correct in saying that we are under a fascist regime. There's element of truth in what you're hearing in the mainstream media, but they're giving you a lot of things to be confused about. Because a lot of people warn you about the threat of communism, when in reality we're seeing more of a fascist state rising up. And that's because the private corporations are remaining somewhat distinct between the government, but the government is basically pressuring them into what to do. Whereas in a communist regime, there would be no private state, theoretically, and the government would oversee everything. But this is even where people get confused with communism, because if you look at the history of the Soviet Union, in the Soviet Union, you actually had the right to own property. There were people who could own parcels of land and make their own food. What are you guys doing with your stocks? I don't have any stocks. I'm in crypto. I recommend people be in crypto. And now over the stock market. And I'm not a financial advisor. Let me preface with that. And I will say that I do know what I'm talking about here, because I'm one of the few people whose portfolio has not been negatively affected by what's taking place at all, whether it be crypto. Oh man, crypto is taking a hit too. It is. But I'm telling you, I have in the green during all of this for a while now. During the bull run and the bear market, green. Green. Portfolio, green. No red. Promise you. So while everything is tanking, there are definitely ways to stay ahead of the curve. And that's part of the things that we do here at MOT, is try to help people stay ahead of the curve. So as far as the stock market goes, I can't really give you much advice. I can't give you technical financial advice on any of this, by the way, because I'm not a financial advisor. I can just give you my honest opinions. And my honest opinion is the best thing to do right now, what I would do if I were somebody looking to preserve my wealth in times like this, wouldn't be buying gold, wouldn't be buying silver, although those have historically worked. I think that they're no longer working as well, especially if you look at gold. Gold is not keeping up with the pace of inflation. Silver's doing a better job than gold. But what I personally would do is look into hex and stake my money for a extended period of time to weather the storm at minimum. That would be the simplest thing anybody can do, in my opinion. And it'll work out, I think, pretty well. I could be wrong because I'm not a fortune teller, but it definitely has done well and pretty much outperformed everything. The only thing it hasn't outperformed in 2021 is Shiba Inu. Shiba Inu outperformed it. Shiba Inu was the top performing asset of 2021 in crypto, in probably the world. if it was the top performing asset in crypto, it was probably the top performing asset in the world. Anyway, so that's what's taking place with the housing market right now, is that there's a shortage. There's a shortage of people selling. The demand of building isn't there, and interest rates are spiking up, causing less investors to dive in, less people qualified to buy homes. But let's not forget what happened in 2008 when the median housing price was like 250,000, and now we have a median housing price of almost $400,000 because of the money printing. And I don't think the money printing is ending anytime soon. So I think that housing prices in the long run will continue to go up. And there are some people that argue that the pricing in the houses have not matched the amount of money that is in circulation. Therefore, the pricing on houses is in a bull market, not a bear market. I don't know, really. I'm not an expert in this, but I like to think that that is plausible. That is plausible. That is probably true. So, the next thing that we want to talk about here is this. So, this is going to be very brief. This is a opinion article about DARPA. For those of you who don't know what DARPA is, it's basically this place where they do some research, they build things for the military, and its name is Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. And so this article is talking about the initiative that started with Barack Obama back in 2013 called the BRAIN Initiative, and it was basically to help find ways using technology, neurotechnology specifically, to alleviate, to treat, to cure neurological disorders, from Alzheimer's to depression to epilepsy, brain injuries, etc. Had minor successes. And so what this article basically flirts with is the idea that, well, they're already trying to control the speech, they're already trying to control the thought. So with DARPA, they could actually legitimately control the thought. And this is what we see, just like Elon Musk buying Twitter. People seem to think that Elon Musk buying Twitter is a good thing, and that it will help Twitter bring back free speech. But Elon Musk is at the forefront of this movement that is being alleged in this article, which they don't name it here, but it is transhumanism. Elon Musk is at the forefront of it with the Neuralink, installing brain chips in your head to help solve these neurological disorders, whether it be depression, anxiety, brain injuries, Alzheimer's, etc., epilepsy, you name it. This is how they introduce these kind of technologies, is through these extremes, and that they have a solution for them. Now, that doesn't mean that they're totally bad. I'm not against technology. I'm not a Luddite. I don't want to fight this stuff. I do think that there will be some benefit to it. However, I believe that we should be sober when discussing the potential of these technologies, and these technologies can definitely be used to control thought on a literal level. We'll see if that happens. But I think that it already is happening in the precursors like social media, television, news, radio. All of those things were precursors of programming. And then if you implement something inside your brain that can help manipulate, stimulate certain parts of the brain, I'm very certain that this will then lead to mass control at a level never seen before. But we'll see. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of benefits to it as well. Anyways, guys, that's what I have for tonight's show. I hope you enjoyed it. Be sure to hit the like button, hit the plus sign, follow, like, share, subscribe. Much appreciated. I will be back here tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time with another edition of The Honest Hour. I'm Luis Acevedo, founder of MOT Media, host of The Honest Hour, and host of Minds of Tomorrow and MOT Today. Thank you guys for tuning in. Much love. Peace.